Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
You are listening to the Brilliance Business Show. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler. Conversations with leading experts in business. And today I have an incredible guest, Dominic Hughes. Dominic is a transformational coach, and our topic today is freedom from personal trauma. Dominic, welcome to the Brilliance Business Show.
Mark, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's an absolute delight and a pleasure to be in conversation with you today.
I'm looking forward to hearing all about your business and your journey, Dominic. Before I get started, I just need to make a legal disclaimer that Dominic is not offering legal advice or legal assistance. So let's get started with the show. Dominic, can you share with our listeners a little bit about yourself and about your business?
Absolutely, Mark. Sure. So, a bit about myself. Well, I'm just so grateful. I've had an absolutely fascinating life. And as far as the business goes, my business of transformational coaching has really developed over a number of years. And I think the root of it is really located in my own experiences in childhood and encountering a number of experiences of personal trauma and then overcoming those and then getting into a place where I really felt that my gifting, my calling, my purpose in life is to help others to find freedom from personal trauma. So that's why I do what I do.
I agree with you there totally, Dominic. Sometimes our past, it really helps us to become the people that we are in the present moment. And sometimes we go through really hard things. We go through really things that feel really, really hard to go through. And they always make us stronger. So it's great that there are people out there like you helping people through those traumas to really move forwards in a better direction. Dominic, can you share who are your customers? Who are your clients? Who do you look after?
Absolutely, Mark. So typically my clients are those who are really stuck in a place because of an experience of trauma, which in some cases they are currently unaware of. But I can see on encountering them almost straight away. I can see just through, the eyes are the window of the soul. And I can see in the eyes of a person who's really suffering deep down that there's something that's been stuck there often for many years. So my clients are those who have this blockage and who really, I know, can get great freedom by just having this encounter and enabling to get free and, then live a life that is really full of the possibility of who they are really called to be and to move into their great purpose, leaving that trauma behind.
I agree with you totally, Dominic. Sometimes you need that support from someone who can be from the outside, who can really give you those action steps to really move forward in a better direction and to really make you see that, yes, I can get through this and I can do better. Do you recall a specific aha moment that led to the launch of your business?
Well, Mark, that's such a great question. So I would say I've had a few. But the one that perhaps sticks out is I remember it's probably 3 years ago when many years earlier I'd actually been on a residential course where I intensively learned how to provide support to young people, and then I worked in a really challenging town in England and really supported a lot of young people, children at the school. But what I'm referring to now is, having done that course, I then signed up for a coaching course, a life coaching course in San Francisco, and I'd signed up months in advance. And the aha moment was this. One day I thought, I must check up when that course begins and book a flight from London to San Francisco. And this was a few months before. And when I looked up the start of the course date, I realized that it was 25 years to the day that I had this incredible experience when literally the climate changed, the heavens opened, and God spoke to me about my calling and my destiny. And it's all about being a servant to other people for their needs and giving them, enabling them to have real breakthrough in their lives. So that was an aha moment for me.
I love that aha moment, Dominic. And what really stands out to me there is all great coaches have coaches, or they have been coached. And also you have to have, you say God, some people may call it universe, but it's so important to have that kind of belief and guidance to help you to really move forwards towards your passions, your desires, and to really make you feel the greater part of life. What really motivates you to jump out of bed every single morning, Dominic?
Mark, that's a great question, and it is so important, isn't it, to have this motivation. So for me, actually, there are several things. I just have to tell you that as we're on the phone now, as we're having this interview, I'm watching an owl just circle in the field and go down and come back up again. And so, what motivates? One thing is the gift and the glory of nature.
I love it.
So this is a rare experience. Just seeing that creature who I hear every day, but so rarely see as the sun goes down. Now I'm just also watching the sunset. So nature is one thing. Another thing is I just have great joy in being alive. I love to sit at the piano. I love to write songs, and then I love to play those songs, and then to vary the harmonies. And then I just love to meet people. I love to meet people. I love to make a difference. So earlier today, I encountered a woman in a cafe who I bumped into once before, and there was just the next sort of sharing in that encounter. So being with people and making a difference. I think she acknowledged that, in our conversation, it really was a beneficial encounter and experience for her. So I think those are the three main things.
Well, as well, what stood out for me there, Dominic, is you're saying about having an appreciation for nature and life. So that's like gratitude, isn't it? And I'm really big. So many people don't have a look around at their environment. When I'm on dog walks, I'll look up at the stars and the moon and really I have to stop for seconds and look up at the sky and really appreciate nature and really being grateful for all of the blessings what are in your life, because I find when you start focusing on your gratitudes, you do find more and more things to be grateful of. Do you agree there, Dominic?
I absolutely do. I think you can do this wonderful exercise, which, particularly if one is not in that place of feeling the joy, feeling the excitement, feeling in love with life, if one actually just decides, what have I got to be grateful for? And if you actually take a pen and a bit of paper and start to write down, I just want to ally that to an experience I had when, my back was against the wall, to put it sort of proverbially. I was in a really, really tough spot. And I'd actually perhaps like to share that with you if we've got time. But during that experience, I chose to write down as many things to be grateful for. And I thought, let me get 25 down, and I got 25. Let me get 50, and I got to 50, and maybe I'm going to go for 70. And I literally I think I got something like 288 things to be grateful for. And yet it was in one of the most challenging experiences of my life last year in 2019.
And do you want to share a little bit about that and how you overcome it?
I would love to share it. I'd love to share it. So what happened was, and one reason that I'm going to tell you why I want to share it as well. I think there are two reasons. So one is that it was one of the most challenging experiences of my life, during which I thrived to the point that somebody I know has said they want me to be one of the leaders on a conference this coming summer, to say to these leaders, look, when things are unbelievably tough, you can actually thrive. And the other reason is, I want to share, is that during that time when I was under incredible pressure, and if I hadn't had the resources and the resilience, I could have broken. Actually, during that period, I helped other people who were around me in the same environment. So here's what happened, Mark. So I actually got arrested. I was in the United States, and suddenly these 3 police vehicles showed up, and they got out, and I thought, I wonder what's going on here. And the next thing I knew, I was in handcuffs, and I said, gentlemen, what's going on? Now, basically, it was a misunderstanding. But I will just mention that I was arrested for something that it was thought I might be going to do later that day. So just to be really clear, I did not commit a crime. But actually what happened, so I found myself within an hour and a half, I was inside a locked and secure unit, and I did not see the light of day for 21 days, and I didn't breathe fresh air for 21 days. And this is only just a few months ago. But what happened while I was there, by the way, this wasn't in fact a prison because of the nature of what was perceived. It was actually a hospital, and it was the psychiatric ward of the hospital, but it was a locked and sealed unit. So when it became clear that I was going to be there for not just a couple of days while the misunderstanding was cleared up, I took a few choices. One choice was to get up early and literally get on my knees and have that sort of routine of as you were saying, tuning into, for me it's the God I believe in, but certainly just being completely in tune with my higher power, and start the day. And the second thing was I'd walk up and down the corridor and make sure I did an average of 7 miles a day, just walking up and down the corridor to keep fit. Thirdly, I was going to help other people, and it was clear there were a lot of people in there who needed that. Fourthly, I was going to be respectful of the staff, but I was not going to take any abuse, because there was a bit of that went on. And what happened? So what happened was there was one guy who was in there, and he admitted to me that he's been in and out of this place a number of times. And I said, well, for how many years? And he said, literally all my life, since I was a teenager. And he's 63. Now, 15 minutes later, this man was starting to walk around the ward saying to other people, you've got to go and talk to Dominic. Because what happened was I got him to open up, and he shared with me this place that he'd been stuck in for 52 years, where he was an alcoholic, and thing that would lead to trouble, and then he'd get back in the institution. And after this conversation, which I think was no more than 15 minutes, he had this joy in his eyes and on his face, and he said, I can tell you I'm never going to drink again. And as I say, he was sharing with other people, saying that they should talk to me. But I think what I'm trying to say is that, as you were saying, when we've got gratitude, no matter what our circumstances are, incredible things can happen. And I just want you to know, I want your listeners to know that it became almost one of the best experiences of my life when, if I hadn't dug deep, it could, and many people might say it should have been one of the worst experiences of my life. But I just found the resources, the discipline, the courage, the strength to really turn it around. I wrote 5 songs in the last 5 days I was in there. I got an applause from the staff when I performed my song. And I came out, I had just had absolute peace in my heart. So that's one of my life's challenging experiences.
Wow, and I can only imagine how scary that is, being in a different country and having all of that happen. It would be bad enough in this country, but just being out of the country. And it's really refreshing to hear how you're coming from a place of service. Dominic, what sets your business apart, and what unique need are you filling for your customers?
Sure, Mark. So I think the reflection that I receive as a response from my clients and from the people I serve is they seem to be, remark on the swiftness with which I assist them in getting a massive breakthrough into a place of freedom. So I think that's the first thing I think is swiftness of breakthrough. I think the other thing is just that I have no intention whatsoever of creating a dependency of my client upon me. I'm not going to say, okay, you've got to sign up for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months of coaching. And I think it's just an honest statement of recognition that I do help my clients get a level of freedom that they never thought they would have in a very short space of time.
Can you share, why is your service especially important in today's modern world?
Absolutely, Mark. I think one of the reasons that it is so important is there really is an epidemic of depression, an epidemic of distress, and really with personal life dissatisfaction. And I think, as I alluded to earlier, personal trauma and experience doesn't have to be in childhood. I could give you one example actually later, I think that may be worth referring to, that was not in childhood. But I think by and large, a traumatic experience can be devastating for a person for literally years, and in some cases for their whole lives, and never properly recover, never live in freedom. So I think for that reason, if for no other reason, the service that I'm so blessed to be able to provide for people, for my clients, is leading them to a place of freedom at a time when there is so much distress in the world that some people find overwhelming.
Dominic, can you share more detail on the kinds of services and products that you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically, I think it's sort of in 2 main categories. So the first will be the transformation breakthrough, and in this case, let's say so a client is faced with the choice that maybe go and see a counsellor who will expect for them to come and visit, once a week or once a fortnight, and if it's something really deep and really traumatic, that will be sort of gone at, if you like, with a sort of hammer and chisel in a massive coal mine. To expect to take weeks and weeks and months and maybe years to get to the bottom of this thing. Whereas in what I can offer, and if they choose to come to me instead, is I liken it to a surgeon with a scalpel, a really sharp knife, really sharp, clean knife for the operation. So I'll say to my client, okay, you've got a choice. I've got this is obviously an analogy, Mark, you appreciate that, your listeners appreciate that, this is an analogy. I've got a really sharp knife over here that I keep in my really special drawer. And it's very sharp and it's very shiny. And when you look at it, you might be a little bit scared. But I want you to know that if you give me permission to use that by the time you wake up tomorrow morning, you are going to feel like a completely different person, because you will have gained a level of freedom you perhaps thought you would never have. So that service is the transformational breakthrough, which can happen incredibly quickly. And then the alternative is there may be somebody who, they perhaps haven't had a traumatic experience as such, but there may be sort of 5 areas of their life which they need work on. And in that case, I do take more of a traditional counselling approach where I will assess them. It's always bespoke. And I say, okay, I think, let's aim for 5 sessions. And then I will quote a price for those 5 sessions, bespoke for that individual. And if necessary, they can renew for a second package. But I keep it pretty short and pretty tight, because I have confidence based on my experience that I can help folks get a transforming experience, a breakthrough with every session, and I've never known that to fail.
That actually brings me on really nicely to my next question. I know you have all sorts of client success stories. What is just one that really stands out to you?
As you ask that question, I'm becoming slightly emotional as I think about this one I'm going to share with you. So I hope I will be able to piece it together. So there was an occasion around 2 years ago, a woman who came to me. She had been suffering for some years, and these were the things that were sort of presented immediately. So the first thing was she looked incredibly sad, depressed, and she also had and was having these recurring, really potent headaches, migraines actually, or migraines, some people call them. And this had been ongoing for 4 years. And what I managed to sort of excavate during the conversation, the initial conversation, was that this woman, she was an Italian, and in her hometown in Italy 4 years earlier, she was driving, and quite by accident, she ended up causing the death of a motorcyclist. But in reality, she was never found guilty because he had jumped the red light. And the facts were absolutely clear. It was not her fault, but she was the one driving the vehicle that did collide with the motorcycle, and she watched the man die on the side of the road. And so I took her through an exercise that I'd never done with anyone. And one reason I'm sharing this is A, the woman got a massive breakthrough, but B, it tells you something about how I operate. I actually did something I'd never done before, but I just had what I call divine inspiration about how to handle her situation, her experience. And I went with my instinct, and I took her through this exercise, an experience, and she was absolutely screaming with floods of tears. But at the end of it, there was this absolute relief and calm and peace. And what I diagnosed was that basically she was living with guilt for 4 years. And no matter that even the parents of this young man said, look, it is not your fault. Please walk away and just, let go of it. She hadn't been able to do that. And actually just another piece of it is that she'd felt a real stigma, because with it being a small town and so many people knowing her and knowing the man she had, quote, killed. She felt estranged as people would come down the street, see her, and cross the other side. And I said, you know what? They're not crossing the street because they judge you or hate you. They just do not know how to communicate with you because of what happened. This is not about you. It's about their difficulty in communication. And that was just a tiny breath of fresh air. But what happened was, after I did the exercise with her, she found this level of freedom. And I actually saw her the next day, and she had this massive smile on her face. But immediately when we finished the exercise, I said, and it was clear she'd got the freedom. I said, by the way, how's your headache? And she almost sort of looked as if she's looking in the mirror, looking at her head. And she contemplated for a couple of seconds and said, it's gone. And I said, oh, I thought so. And so she got freedom in her body when she got freedom in her mind. And that was really the breakthrough. It was the whole of, body, soul, spirit, and mind.
I do love a great success story, and that's a really, really great one. I really found that a little bit emotional, and it's great to hear of all the great work you're doing, Dominic, and that was such a moving success story. Now, how do clients typically hear about you, and are there certain life moments that usually lead to them seeking you out?
Sure, great question. So I think there are a variety of ways in which clients hear about me. So one will be personal referrals. So those who've got their breakthrough with me themselves, then obviously they share about that, and sometimes it's just obvious to others something's changed, and others ask them, and then they say what happened, and then they share, well, we had this coaching with Dominic, and so one is personal referral. I think another is online presence, and so I've been present. So I'm present on LinkedIn, and present on Facebook, present on Instagram, which is a much newer account, which I'm sort of growing and developing. So obviously I do have a website, and so it's a number of those various ways, both in person, online, and referral. And just people I encounter. I end up meeting a lot of people through travel and through events which I either attend or speak at.
That brings me perfectly on to my last question, Dominic. I really enjoyed having you as a guest on the Brilliance Business Show. I'm really grateful for your time today. So my last question today is, how can people reach out to you? How can people connect with you?
Absolutely. So the most simple way is just by knowing my brand name. So my brand name is Game Changer Life Coach. So obviously I want folks to reach me. I want people to reach me in a way that suits them, which is why there are a number of different avenues. If your preferred platform is Facebook, you can look at Game Changer Life Coach on Facebook and find my page there. If you would like to send me an email, then I'm just going to check in with my address. I've got a number of email addresses. It's domtransformationspecialist@gmail.com if you'd like to write me a direct email there. Again, on Instagram, my brand name, Game Changer Life Coach, and the website is gamechangerlifecoach.net, where if you'd like to read more about me there, then you can do that, which you might want to do before making contact. But if you go on my website, then you will find both the email address, and you'll even find my phone number, and you'd be welcome to. Always a good idea perhaps to send a text first if you want to be in direct contact rather than just making a phone call. That would be a great way to be in touch.
You have been a great guest today. Thank you, Dominic.
Well, look, I'm absolutely privileged to have encountered you, Mark, and most grateful for you hosting me on your wonderful program. And it's been great getting to know you a bit in recent months as we've communicated in advance of this time. So it's been an absolute joy and a pleasure, and I would just want to say God bless you and all of your listeners. And if any of your listeners would love to be in touch, I would be delighted to hear from them. And just, if I may say very quickly, if you're listening on this show and you do get in touch, I want to do something partly out of respect for Mark, who I think is a wonderful person and to whom I'm very grateful. And I would like to make an offer which would be individual and bespoke to each of you. So I'm not going to go into the details of that, just to say, if you get in touch, if you think I can be of help and support to you, I would love to. And just let me know that you've come through Mark and through this program, and we'll make that work in a way that will be beneficial to you.
Thank you. Be sure to go out and reach out to Dominic about his amazing offer to you all. You have been listening to the Brilliance Business Show. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.